Hey, this is Mako, and we're gonna go back into Saryn. Reworked her a bit, and let's, do some show and tell with her, right? Right. So, first thing, I tend to use the Supra or the Telos Boltor the most. I haven't really been using my Cyanoid Simular on her, even though it still is a pretty good selection. The Boltor Prime is also good, does the most damage per second, and Telos Boltor actually keeps up with it. Now, why do I use Telos Boltor? Telos Boltor does gas. When it's activated gas, when near a spore, drops toxin onto the spore, and so you get toxin plus viral. So the embolyst in itself doing this is pretty destructive. Also, gas is the most destructive against ancients and infested types. Flesh-based enemies are affected by heat by 50%, so is many things. But infested is actually 75% or 70% if I remember right on gas. Now we've got the prisma cleavers, and with this builds up, you got three builds. The first one I call my standard, B is my spore spreader, and C would just be kind of like a little upgrade to A, just a little bit. But in truth, A is the one I seem to have the most effect, on enemies with. Now, when you play as Saryn, there are two types. You're going to go with the majority of the enemies you're just going to kill with Spore. You really don't need to do much with them. You just come down here, throw your molt, throw a Spore, and just throw a whole bunch of Spores on it. And watch them die. You can even pull out the embolyst here, spray it and pray it, and watch them all die. Pretty effective, isn't it? This is pretty much what happens. You can actually start dropping frames because this will spread throughout the entire map pretty quickly doing this. I tell you, I've had people like, I can't see, it's dropping frames, it's a little lag. I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I'm killing things. Just what happens. Well, I hope at some point they maybe fix that. And if you really just want to get rid of them quick, just use miasma at the end and they all kind of just melt away. By the way, if your miasma is about to run out, just use miasma again, and that resets the timer on miasma. So, yeah, that's the standard way you would play with her, right? Pretty effective. With this embolyst setup, you're pretty much never running out of ammo, so I tend to run the embolyst because it gives me the most energy and does the most damage. The telos is kind of for heavier enemies such as this. Now, there's a different playstyle against heavy enemies. Against heavy enemies, you wouldn't get close. Or you want to get close to them. You don't want to be far away. Because number one, they tend to shoot like that and they back up, as you can clearly see. So miasma will stun lock them, and then you can forcibly spread your spores with the embolyst. Again, miasma to do more damage, but as you can see, it's not really that effective. It's not doing much. So cast your miasma. Cast Toxic Lash. Now, why do you use Toxic Lash on the heavy enemies? If you cannot use your HP regeneration on them to spread it, use your embolyst or this. As you can see, I can quickly shred through them. What I tend to do is I'll throw a spore on them and have Toxic Lash and just come up and shred them to pieces. So throw like 2 spores on an enemy, 1 minimum, and then come up while Toxic Lash is active and just shred them into, little itty bitty pieces. Mid-air molting is actually pretty effective too, like that. You can cast spores on it, and enemies will aim upward, and then they're, totally open for attack. The problem is you yourself cannot pop it in melees, so this is again why I put the range plus on the embolyst. You can just sit there and pop it with the gas. Gas will pop it, give it toxin, multiple procs of toxin, so it's toxin, 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 plus viral. So it's pretty fun. So I hope this has helped, and hope this develops your own builds pretty quick.